From Washington, D.C., the Department of the Army proudly presents the Clarinet Quartet of the United States Army Field Band. As part of an ongoing series of instructional videotapes by the United States Army Field Band, we present our Clarinet Quartet in a discussion of clarinet technique, individual practice tips, and ensemble performance, titled Improving Your Clarinet Section Through the Use of Clarinet Quartets. The members of the Clarinet Quartet include Sergeant First Class Gene Gould, Staff Sergeant Dennis Crawley, Staff Sergeant Dave Jones, and the clarinet section leader and your host for this discussion of the clarinet, Sergeant First Class Jim Heffernan.
We feel it's much easier to work on fundamental ensemble skills such as tone, intonation, phrasing, and articulation in small groups rather than in the large group setting of your concert band rehearsal. We suggest that you break your clarinet section up into as many clarinet quartets as possible. So if you have 12 clarinet players, break it up into 3 clarinet quartets and match the skill levels of all the players in each of the groups. Now, we want you to encourage them to meet regularly, at least once a week. Find a free time, after school, or a library time that they can get together regularly. Now, since you're going to pick the literature that you want them to learn, and they're going to learn the skills that you want them to learn in this literature, you don't need to come to every rehearsal. In fact, we realize that would be impossible for you to do. But what we suggest you do is drop in occasionally and informally to give them a little coaching. We feel this coaching will go a long way in improving your concert band clarinet section. We also realize that part of the difficulty lies in choosing good literature at the proper grade level to suit your needs. We've prepared a list of graded clarinet quartets. You can obtain this list by sending a self-addressed stamped envelope to Tour Coordinator, United States Army Field Band, Fort George G. Meade, Maryland. For today's program, we've chosen exemplary works from each of the graded categories in order to demonstrate which ensemble skills you can teach with each piece. We will begin with the easiest grade level and progress to the most difficult. With each, we will tell you what skills you can teach and try to give you some tips for how to teach them.
We'll be opening our clinic with a collection which you will find graded Level 1 Easy. Clarinet Sessions, put together by Don Castle and Livingston Gearhart, is made up of clarinet duets, trios, and quartets in a wide variety of styles, anything from a Palestrina madrigal to a jazzy version of Turkey in the Straw. The main accent of this book is on fun. The main objective is to hold the students' interest, and while they're having fun, sneak in a little bit of musical knowledge and small ensemble skills. For the sake of our clinic, we'll be demonstrating a couple of selections which can be used to zero in on developing some basic clarinet skills such as embouchure, breathing, and simple articulation. Since this is easy music, simple rhythmically and technically, it'll give you a chance to check on the progress of your individual students. Look at the embouchure. Is the chin flat? Are the corners in? Is there a small amount of lower lip covering the lower teeth? How are they breathing? Try to encourage the students to breathe deeply and support the tone from the diaphragm. How are they tonguing? Try to encourage a tip of tongue to tip of reed method for a cleaner and quicker articulation. These are all things that can't be approached in the limited setting of a band rehearsal, and it shows the value of spending some time with your students in a small ensemble setting. Before we play our sessions selections, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about our use of bass clarinet. We prefer to use the bass clarinet in place of the fourth clarinet part because it gives us a broader range of sound and a more interesting texture. We'd like to demonstrate this by playing a selection first with 4 B-flat clarinets, then substituting the bass. As you can see, that makes quite a difference. It's a great challenge for your bass clarinetist, or let one of your hotshot B-flat players have a chance at bass. It's good experience for them and promotes versatility and prepares them for any future opportunities. Finally, we'd like to play another selection from the Sessions book. It's a Ricercar by Tatterini, and it would be an ideal exercise for the basic clarinet skills of embouchure, breathing, and articulation.
The next piece on our program is entitled The Delicate Sounds of the King and was written by Hugo Norden. Now, don't let that dweeby name get you down. It's really a fine piece for the middle school or younger high school clarinet quartets. And even though it is in the grade 3 to 4 category on our list, we feel it is more realistically a grade 2. In The Delicate Sounds of the King, we would like to stress two important musical aspects of ensemble playing: phrasing and blending. It was edited by Don McCatherine, who took the liberty of writing in a great many phrase markings, such as crescendos and decrescendos, a wide range of dynamic markings, and articulations, such as legato, staccato, accents, and sforzandos. All of these markings are designed to make proper musical phrasing as easy as possible for the young quartet. Another aspect of ensemble playing that can be addressed here is balance. Now, most high schools have only one or two really good clarinet players. For instance, mine had only one. And this piece, because it is not technically difficult to play, gives the other players in the section a chance to try to copy the sound produced by the best player. Trying to achieve compatible sounds amongst all four players is essential to good blending. Another essential to blending is balance. Now, we would like to play the first phrase of The Delicate Sounds of the King in the manner in which we have heard some quartets play. As you can hear, the first clarinet player is too loud, and the rest of us are too soft and timid, and it just doesn't blend as well as if all four of us are playing equally. Now, The Delicate Sounds of the King is a fine piece for your younger quartets that stresses phrasing and blending. It is not technically difficult to play, yet everyone has a good part, so no one gets bored.
Next we have the English Dance Suite by William Byrd as arranged by Philip Gordon. This is an excellent piece in the 3 to 4 medium category. This is one of our favorite pieces, and it has much to offer as a teaching tool, especially in the areas of rhythmic independence and style. One of the most important lessons your clarinetists can learn as part of a clarinet quartet is to think for themselves. As part of a clarinet section, it's all too easy to follow the crowd. Some students may go their entire musical career without ever really learning to sight read. This can cause you problems in your band rehearsals and at band festivals when they may be called upon to sight read. In chamber music, each person has their own individual part which must be played. This is when you can really see where your problems lie. In the English Dance Suite, we have rhythms which are not at all complex, but the parts do intertwine in a way which might be confusing. We'd like to demonstrate this by playing the first 2 phrases of the Allemande. The result here is that each person must concentrate and count his own part, being careful to fit into the ensemble. After playing this piece and pieces like it, your clarinet section's sight reading is bound to improve. Since we have 3 different types of dance in the English Dance Suite, here's a good chance to teach style. A good way to approach style, especially of a dance, is to go a little bit into the historical background of the dance itself, and if the students can imagine the people dancing it as they play, it'll give them an idea of how it should be played and also the best tempo. It's a good idea to have reference books available and have your students do their own research. We'd also like to suggest that you take a band period once a month or so and have your small ensembles perform for one another, each with a small introduction for their piece or just some bit of information about it which would make it more interesting to the audience. The English Dance Suite also offers many opportunities to play beautiful phrases with good intonation and control, and is an ideal teaching tool for rhythmic independence and style.
The next piece on our program is Gerald Sears' Licorice Stick Suite. This is a 3-movement work, and it's found in the 3 to 4 or medium difficult category. We've chosen this piece for a number of reasons. First, it's fun and entertaining, and we feel it's good to make medicine taste good. The second reason that we've chosen it is that it teaches the jazz style. The swing eighths are notated with the dotted eighth and 16th, and the jazz style is well notated through the use of good articulation marks. And finally, this piece offers an opportunity for the students who aren't playing principal clarinet to listen very carefully to the principal clarinet and match that style. How many times have you been conducting your concert band when a trumpet player plays a solo and should be followed with the exact same line in the clarinet or, say, the oboe, and those players play nothing like what the trumpet player played? Or how many times have you conducted a tutti in your clarinet section and you'd like the whole section to play exactly like the first clarinets are playing? Well, this piece is a good teaching tool for that skill. In this piece, I have the melody all the time, and the other players play a subordinate part, but always with the same rhythms. So they have to match the style that I play in. Many times when we have music like this, we let the first player play the part and let the other players listen to it so that they can match the style. This is how we do it. As you can see, this is an excellent teaching tool for getting a whole section to play like the first or like one player. We'll also play the second movement of this, which is called Going Steady and is a jazz waltz. So if you're looking for a piece that's fun and entertaining, teaches the jazz style, and offers your students an opportunity to listen to the style of the first player and match it, we suggest Gerald Sears' Licorice Stick Suite.
Our next selection, graded 4 to 5, medium difficult, will be Douglas Green's Four Conversations. This is a 4-movement piece, each movement titled Chit Chat, Gossip, Moonlight Colloquy, and Bull Session. This is advanced music, and while many of your better high schoolers could handle this, the first clarinet part has a few places that go extremely high. This problem, and others like it presented in our clinic, can easily be fixed by lowering them an octave. first movement is a very clear ABA form. The A section, an excellent introduction to mixed compound meter. The 4 meters used here are 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, and 3/4. The top of the page indicates that the eighth note remains constant throughout, so all the student really needs to know is that in a 3/8 measure there are 3 beats, in a 4/8 there are 4, and so on. What we like about this piece as a teaching tool for mixed meter is that one player at a time has the melody, while the other 3 have a chordal accompaniment. Here, it is important for each of the performers to be well aware of the other's parts in order to create good ensemble. In the beginning of this piece, the first clarinet has the melody. The first 2 measures are a 4/8 followed by a 5/8. In the 4/8 measure, there is a quarter note and 2 eighth notes, which establishes the tempo of the constant eighth note. The 3 of us accompanying the melody of the first clarinet have his rhythms written directly above our parts, so that we know where he is in direct relation to our parts. In this example, the lead begins with the first clarinet, who can help out with a little nod of the head on major beat divisions before handing the melody over to the bass clarinet. At first, you might want to conduct the students, but as they get used to the changing meters, they can lead themselves. In this instance, the lead begins with the second clarinet, as he has the last eighth note in the measure. The second and fourth movements are lively movements, showcasing contrasting styles and wide dynamic ranges. Again, I'd like to say that Green's 4 conversations offer many lessons, including an introduction to mixed compound meter, as well as musical leadership. And now, the first, second, and fourth movements. Our next selection, graded 5 to 6 difficult, is a canonic suite by Elliott Carter, one of the 20th century's best-known composers. The suite was originally written for saxophone quartet. Carter later redid it for clarinet quartet, and it stands today as one of the core pieces in the clarinet quartet repertoire. Although all 3 movements are canonically treated, we will use only the first movement, as it is the most clear example of canon. The first movement is basically an exact 4-part canon, each voice being separated by a beat. We'll play a section of it not as written, but in unison, and then as written, to demonstrate the canon. Next, we are going to break up the canon once again and play the same passage as written. The purpose this time is to show how easy it would be to isolate a student playing out of style. Sergeant Jones will demonstrate this technique. You can see how this type of music fosters independence between players. It can become quite confusing as one is playing his part, while the other 3 are playing the same thing in 3 different places. If the performers aren't counting like crazy, there is a great temptation to join one of the other parts. This selection will go a long way with helping your clarinet section, especially when the first, second, and third parts are independent of each other. In closing, I'd like to say that the canonic suite is an excellent teaching tool for teaching about a canon and imitation of style. And now the first movement of Elliott Carter's canonic suite.
The final piece on our program is our Grade 6. This is the first movement of the String Quartet, Opus 18, Number 1 by Beethoven, arranged for Clarinet Quartet by Keith Wilson. This is a terrific piece for the best high school clarinet quartets and would make a great contest piece. All of the ensemble skills we have described in our program today are important, from phrasing, blending, intonation, and balance, to stylistic considerations, careful listening, technical facility, and this will also help develop your students' internal sense of rhythm and time. Along those lines, one of the most difficult technical and rhythmic passages in the piece is where the first clarinet, played by Sergeant Heffernan, begins a long and difficult articulated 16th note run, and about halfway through it, the rest of us have to join in on an offbeat. It is especially important for the 3 of us who join in to retain our own independent sense of time and rhythm, so that when we come in, we don't come in too late or too early, or slow it down or speed it up. And this is how it should sound. One thing all of the pieces of our program today have in common is the independence of the parts. And we feel if your clarinet players are practicing clarinet quartet music and other chamber music, then the independent first, second, and third clarinet parts of the higher graded band literature will be much easier for them, thereby improving the quality of your concert bands. And now the String Quartet, Opus 18, Number 1, the first movement by Beethoven.
As you can see, a little coaching can go a long way, and the pieces don't have to be technically difficult in order for your students to learn those ensemble skills that you want them to bring back into your concert band. Remember, always stress listening, especially to pitch, articulation, and phrasing. We feel that a good listener becomes a good ensemble player. And finally, encourage your students to take the pieces that they're working on to contest. Going to contest ensures a higher level of commitment, and then your students will better assimilate those ensemble skills that you want them to learn. We hope that you'll be improving your clarinet section through the use of clarinet quartets.